May I know your name, please?
Yeah, I am Jeremy Panganiban from the Philippines.
Are you a member of the Women Caucus?
Yes, my organization is a member of the Women's Caucus. So my organization is Women's Legal and Human Rights Bureau.
How often you attend the Women Caucus event?
Okay. My organization has been with the Women's Caucus for about 2 or 3 years. So since then, my organization has been attending Women's Caucus meetings, discussions, and conferences, workshops organized by the caucus. So, but as per myself, this is my first time joining. So other women from my organization joins Women's Caucus activities in the past.
And today we have been discussing a lot of issues. So, for you, what do you think that what are the main issues that we have been discussing for a whole morning?
All right. First, I would just like to say this is a very nice workshop, especially taking into consideration the Philippine context. That is, we often trade of human rights so that we can have economic benefits. So this workshop on the economic blueprint of the ASEAN is very important for us. But I would also just like to highlight issues such as violence against women and women's access to justice. That one of my insights from this meeting is that it is a common problem in the ASEAN region that women still suffer from violence. It is a common experience, and we should address it as a regional body. The ASEAN community should make it, I would say, a priority. And another issue for me is, of course, lack of women's access to justice. That is saying that our legal system doesn't work to ensure and protect women from violations, and that the ASEAN has the mandate to protect women's rights, and it must protect women's rights and increase women's access to justice. There are many other issues, and of course, especially on migrant women. The discussion focused on migrant workers, but we also discussed about women who meet their husbands or partners online, and then they get to marry, and somehow they get to migrate. So for me, that is important, that as ASEAN, as a community, as women in Southeast Asia, we should look into this thing more and more, because perhaps there are problems there or issues that we should all address. So for us, we call it one type is marriage migration, or women who migrate to marry, and I think we all need to look into it more deeply.
And do you have any recommendation for the Women Caucus?
For the Women's Caucus recommendation, well, I think the Women's Caucus is doing a great job in terms of consolidating women's voices and women's position in the region. So the visibility of women and the strength of women's issues, large part of it is carried by, or is it's because Women's Caucus is there in Southeast Asia. That's why women's issues are highlighted. So it's a very crucial, important formation in the ASEAN region. My recommendation would be to continue engaging women in Southeast Asia, and perhaps engage more and more women and women's groups, so that we can have more and more on our side, and maybe together we can draw from each other's strengths and be more creative and innovative in our ways. So I think Women's Caucus should just continue with strengthening the women's formation in the region.
And for we have a long discussion about many issues, so we're gonna have a final statement, the draft statement. So do you have any idea to put in the statement?
For our statement, I think if I will have to put it in one word or in a short, very short, I think there is no development without women's rights. So for us, people in the ASEAN and the whole ASEAN community should take it into their own hearts to stand for women and to stand for women's rights, because without women's rights there is no women's rights are human rights, and yeah, we should all stand up together behind that line.
For the last question, do you have any recommendation to Asian leader or your government leader to do anything to improve the women's status in social?
First, to our government, you've not been doing your job and that you should be more you should uphold or fulfill your obligations under the CEDAW and under the Magna Carta of women. This should not be just lip service, and women should feel the change in their everyday lives. So I put to task our Philippine government to do that. For the ASEAN leaders, I would like to highlight that since they will adopt the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration this November, if they please do not do so. That is my main please delay the adoption and listen to people's voices, listen to women's voices. That is not the declaration that we want. That is not the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration that we deserve. So if you can delay the adoption, please do so. And if you cannot, then we will be forced to good to really push for our aspirations and make you listen more.
Okay. Thank you for your time.